I got to give my testimony very briefly. I was just on YouTube listening to Hezekiah Walker's Better song. And I remember when I was homeless and I listened to that one and Jacqueline Carr's Jesus is Bigger, living in the car with me and my mom. And then after I lost my mom, I was at the airport, sleeping where I could, in hospitals, wherever. I was alone. And I was listening, but I wasn't, because God was with me. The angels were with me. And I listened to that song knowing that it would get better by the grace of God. Somehow, I knew that God would provide. When I was at the shelters, when I got kicked out, when I had to leave the shelters, every part, when I was sleeping on the concrete, when I was sleeping, I would always try to hide inside like a hospital. But the point was, when I was homeless, when I was alone, when I didn't have nobody to turn to, God was there. And I knew that it would get better. I knew somehow God would bring me out. I didn't know how, but I knew he was more than capable. I knew he was a miracle worker. He had did it before with my mom, and when I lost my mom, I knew he was going to do it again. He could, and he was more than able. He was a miracle worker, and he did. So I have to testify that, because 2 years ago, I was homeless. I was homeless. People was looking at me crazy downtown Fort Worth because I had a backpack on. I always thought that when you're homeless, you looked homeless, but I didn't think I looked homeless. But I guess the other people I did. I remember these people looking at me when I was going into a hotel. What was I going into the hotel? To go to the bathroom, or just to maybe duck the sun for a few hours or whatever. They was looking at me like I had a disease. Don't know how they knew I was homeless. I just had a backpack and regular clothes on. I tried to keep myself up. I would bathe at the racetrack, take a wash off. But the point was, I kept myself clean, and I tried to look as decent as I could. But people would look down on you when you're homeless. They'll treat you any kind of way, and it's a loneliness you never faced before, because I just lost my mom and I had no one to turn to, but I had God. And I was right there, still saved, still in church, but I had no one to turn to, but I had God. And but I was out there. And it's lonely when you're out there, especially when you've been born in a conservative holiness household your whole life. When all you know is mama, and you a mama's girl. You ain't never been hit with the world like that, because your mama doing everything. Only time I've been away from her was in college, and that was always hard because girls always gave me a hard time. I always went through some crap in college, and I was always homesick because I've always went through hell in college. Like, they always gave me a hard time, no matter what college I was at. Girls always gave me a hard time. It didn't matter where I went. I always went through something in college. So I would always miss my mom. She was like, after God, she was my rock. God was my rock. And after that, it was my mom. So I was lonely. I went through homelessness, y'all. Devastation like you don't know before. I remember those when I first left the shelter, because of the spiritual warfare. When you serve God, you stand for God. People living alternative lifestyles don't like that. I got punched in the eye. Said I wasn't gonna fight her. Respected the fact that she was supposed to be pregnant, if she was or was not. I did not fight her. I wanted to please God. I did not fight her. She was over there bragging, thinking that I was a punk and all this, but I had made up my mind. 2-3 weeks later, I had left. 2 months later, I was in my own apartment, or 3 months. So when you do things God way, it pays off. People may call you a punk. They may laugh at you. They mock Jesus. They laughed at him. They spit on him. Yet he was all powerful. He could have struck them dead, but he didn't. Just because you choose to be quiet, you choose to turn the other cheek, doesn't make you weak. My point is, I was lonely, had no one to turn to, didn't know a loneliness like that, but I knew that that it would get better by Jesus Christ. I knew that by his power, his miraculous power, somehow he would bring me out. I knew that he was more than able. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew that it was all in his hands. And he did it. He bought me out, and 2 years later, he blessed my first apartment. The bishop paid half a deposit. I paid rent for like 2 years straight. My rent was $6.95 over there. My rent is only like $65 more over here, and it's 3 times as better as over there. These are old, but they're beautiful. They're remodeled. And I just want to let y'all know that God blesses you. And when my job fired me 3 days before I moved in here, I already had my deposit. God will open doors for you you shouldn't be able to get in, but his favor will open the doors. He will place people there that will strategically be there just to give you your blessing. And then they may not be there anymore, just to give you your blessing. That's what happened. God's grace is amazing. And I moved in my apartment, and they fired me, and I was scared. And I know they wanted me to go back to homelessness, but in my heart, I wanted to work in Amazon. He heard my heart, filled out the application, instantly hired. Went to the wasn't even an interview. We just took a picture. They hired us all instantly. It was like 2 or 3 days later. Didn't start to 2 weeks later. I said, don't let me miss a beat, Jesus. I said, don't let me miss a beat. got that check from Trump right on time to pay my rent, because I had just lost my job at Walmart. They wanted to see me struggle. They wanted to see me homeless, but God said no. And then what else? And then I filed for unemployment, got 2 checks from them, money just flowing in, didn't miss a beat, home relaxing, enjoying. I worked for Walmart 5 days a week now, only off Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I only work from 1 to 9 or 2 to 9 at that, barely getting 8 hours for $11 an hour. I work at Amazon now only 3 days a week, off 4 days a week, making $15 an hour, 10-hour shift, really 9.5. And then at that, I'm making way more money than I was at Walmart. So much so that I can just throw it in the bag. Money ain't an object. Money ain't an object. Okay, money ain't an object unless I just overspend. I overspend anyway. But for the basic parts, when I do right, when I spend right, money ain't an object. I'm just spoiled. God spoils me. And when you serve him, my mom would always say, when you serve God, certain things you don't have to worry about. I don't have to worry about my child getting raped because I don't have men coming in and out the house because I serve God. So you're sheltered, and your kids are sheltered when you serve God. You don't have to worry about certain things because they're sheltered from those things that you would have to worry about if you were living lifestyles of sin, if men was coming in and out your house. I don't have to worry about some man beating me up because I used him to pay the car note, but I'm with him, I'm with another man. I don't have to worry about that because God pays my bills. I don't need a man. I don't need a pimp to pay my bills. God does that. I'm waiting on God for my husband. I'm not going to marry the wrong man. I'm going to wait on God for the right man, and certain stuff I won't have to worry about when I do that. So it's not in my hands. It's in God's timing. But I got on here to encourage y'all that God made it better. When I was lonely and I didn't have nobody, most of y'all got somebody to turn to. But when you don't have nobody to turn to, okay, there's a loneliness that y'all don't even understand. Because me and my mom was like this. Didn't have nobody to turn to. And I was saved in the church. Didn't have nobody to turn to. Outside, sleeping in the airport. I was on live sleeping in the airport. Didn't nobody come say, hey, let me take you in. The sisters say you can sleep. Didn't nobody, but God still bought me out. So my point is, God is a deliverer, especially when you serve him. And if y'all not serving him, you don't need a man to pay your bills, to pay your car note. You don't need to sleep around to get half of the money. God will do it for you. He bless you with a foot and a leg. Work and get it yourself. My mama taught me from a young girl on up. She said, you don't have to depend on nobody for nothing. She said, work and get it yourself. She said, I've been working since I was 15. She said, my grandma and my brother depend on people to give them stuff, but I'm raising you to work and get it yourself. Now, I was a mama's girl. I still had little cheesy jobs like the movie theater, fast food joints, but she taught me that. I was still a mama's girl, and I was still, when I was homeless, I was waiting on Prince Charming to rescue me. And then it dawned, no, I need to get a job, else I'm going to be homeless. God had to move my crutch. When he took my mom away, he removed my crutch. He grew me up, and he had to make me realize you either going to work or you're going to be homeless. Stop waiting on a Prince Charming to rescue you. You young people, you got to work for what you want. You have to go out there and you have to get it. In God, we live, move, and have my being. Now, I thought that no matter what, even if I didn't have nobody, when I lost my mom, I can depend on myself. I'm more than determined. I've learned to work. When I first got my job at Walmart, and I was a good worker. I've always been a good worker. My mom used to tell me that at a movie theater. She said, you a good worker. As a car, I used to clean up and sweep up. She said they would call me to sweep up stuff. People urinating, boo-boo on the floor. Excuse my language. They'll call me to get it. Nobody else didn't get it. I'll be the only one around there still sweeping. Everybody else chilling. She said, you're a good worker, but don't overwork. She would say that. But my point is, when you want something, you have to work for. But when I was at Walmart, I said, well, I can always, if I can't depend on nobody else, I already know I can depend on God. But I was like, but I can trust my own strength. Until one day God showed me I can't even trust my own strength because it's in him. That scripture came to life, because what happened was I was bending, putting merchandise up or whatever, and I caught a cramp in my back and my legs, and I literally went stiff. Like it was some pain. I was like, oh my gosh, I could barely walk. My body got stiff from doing all that bending, and it was hurting so bad that I couldn't even make it through the rest of the night. They had to sit me down in the part where you try on clothes. They had to sit me there and let me work that desk because she had left for the day, and they allowed me to do that because I didn't want to go home. I still needed the hours. And but that's when I realized, wow, I thought I could always depend on myself, but God just showed me I can't even depend on myself, because in him I live, move, and have my being. He's the one that making these joints function right. So young people, just having the ability to think, walk, talk, you have your life, health, and strength is a gift from God. People laying in the hospital, and they're still blessed by God in different ways, but they're still alive. It's still hope. You can't unplug it on nobody. That's God's. I don't care if they're a vegetable. Let God decide when somebody dies. I don't care if people say, well, I'd rather unplug it, they're a vegetable. No, God gives and he takes life. Let him decide. Don't unplug nothing. Let God be God. Because they can be a vegetable today and God can bring them to life tomorrow and they can be dancing like David danced for God's glory. So don't do that. But my point was, he showed me that everything I do, even in myself, I can't do it within myself. It's all him. So God, I'm telling y'all how I was listening to the Hezekiah Walker song Better when I was homeless, lonely, a loneliness I have never faced before. And I look back in my life and I say, wow, I knew that God could make it better. I knew that he would bring me through. I didn't know how, but I knew he could, and he was more than able. He was a miracle worker. And I look at me now, saying this beautiful apartment. It's older, but it's gorgeous. I'm going to give y'all a tour when I fix it up, because that's what I like to do. I like to decorate, so I'm going to give a tour. And so, but then I look and I say, I got a better job. I'm only working 3 days a week. I don't even have to work 5 days a week. And I say, Walmart fired me thinking they was going to hurt me, thinking I was going to be homeless. Didn't know that I would get more money. The unemployment thing said they're going to pay you back for what they took from you. And I said, if they would have known I would have been this blessed by them firing me, they would have kept me there. I was less blessed when I was there, and I was favored when I was there. Now I'm extremely blessed. And God took what the devil meant for bad and turned it around for my good. So all I'm saying is, it's the grace of God. I'm not putting no one down. God used that. The same manager that fired me was the same one that hired me. God used her for the appointed time to grow me up, for me to be for that job, to help me, to make me a better person, for me to grow up. It's a blessing to me. But even in the end, when they wanted it to hurt me, so-called getting tired of me, but spiritual warfare, I'm grateful. But even when people turn and they're ugly and they go with the ways of the world, and people that's living alternative lifestyle, and they're mad just because of you serve God and you stand on them and something different about you, I don't care. I don't care if you at work. I don't care if somebody's preaching to somebody about Jesus. I wasn't around there randomly preaching. The only thing I might say if I see people was, if you get a chance, look at Acts 2:38. I would maybe just say that. Otherwise, then I was just doing my job. But I'm not going to get into all that. But what I will say, y'all, is that if you happen to be at work or wherever you are, and somebody is preaching to somebody is bringing them Jesus, don't put them down. Don't go tell the manager on them, because they're doing whatever God called them to do. And you don't want to stand in the way. God said, touch not my anointed, do my prophet no harm. You don't want to get in God's way, because while it may seem he don't do things out of order, but when you are doing God's will, may not line up with the ways of the world. So leave him alone. Do your job. Don't go trying to tell him and blah, blah, blah. You don't know. We know that everything's in DC and order and all that. But some people are here to be telling the word of God no matter what. I mean, like I saw in the dream, it was water coming in the building. I told the young people, oh my gosh, water coming in something. They all panicked and ran that way. I was like, why would y'all run to the storm? And then we saw the gym, and the gym had the solid foundation. And the dream reminded me that you have to be founded on God. But when I ran outside, it wasn't flooding outside. It wasn't rain outside. Then it flipped. But then it flipped to this other scene with my mom. And it was like, she over here telling people about Jesus. She was supposed to be working, but she told me, and I was like, that sounds like something I would do when I woke up. I went in there and I was like, she's right. And she looked at me. She had on a white robe, white dress. She was slimmer. She had long black hair, and that was my mom. And it's probably the way she looks in heaven now. She's beautiful. She looked at me for a moment, and she went back to what she was doing, which was worshiping God. And I woke up, and that was the music that was on the gospel ministry music. It was the end credits what I was listening to. I say all that to say, God is a miracle worker. He brought me out of homelessness. I'm doing well by his grace now. God can bring you through whatever you're going to be. Encouraged. Maybe some of you lost your job. Maybe you're going through homeless. Maybe you're living with somebody. Maybe you're tired of shacking up with somebody because you're scared that you would have to go be homeless, or you're scared you don't want to let nobody know, or maybe you want to keep this image. But you need to get out of your own. You need to get out of God's way and get whoever's distracting you from God out of God's way, and totally surrender to God, because he can use that thing that people mocked and laughed at you, talked about you, and turn it around for you. God, he will turn it around for his glory, so people can know she must have God. I mean, when I say she must have God, she must. People must know I have God, because I didn't have nobody to have my back. I didn't have nobody that cared for me like that. Y'all are blessed because y'all have people that love y'all. When push come to shove, a lot of saints know me because they remember my mom and I, but nobody really cares about me like that as far as family. Y'all care about me as far as a sister in Christ, but don't nobody have relationship like that to me like my mom did. Nobody else has that relationship. In the future, God will bring that relationship. So you're blessed when you have people that truly care for you. True family and true friends that care for you is a blessing. But when I say Y'all, I had no one and I was homeless, but now I have God the whole time. I had God the whole time. That's all I need. But now he's brought me out. And the only one that gets the credit, because when people don't do what they need to do, when people can help you and they don't, and they decide the way they should help you and say, well, I'm not going to give her this, but I'll give her this, and that's still a part of this, instead of giving you the actual thing they should have gave you and let God do the rest, God will do the rest. God will step in and show up and show out because he's in control. Yes, love, 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 but God is a miracle worker, and he's more than a deliverer. And I just want y'all to know that I just was testifying to his glory because he brought me a mighty long way. And I'm trying to hold it in. But I couldn't. I had to share it, y'all. And just as easy as I'm up, I understand that you can go back down. I understand that's life, but I understand and I trust God to keep me and to keep to stay humble, but to keep doing my part, and that he's going to keep being God no matter what. If I was homeless on the street, he'd still love me. I would still be favored. I still have grace, but I can't go back to that. I have to continue being greater and being greater, getting back in school, reaching those entrepreneurship levels. I have to continue letting God use my life for his glory. And I just want to let y'all know that God's brought me a mighty long way, but that nothing's impossible for him, that he is a miracle worker. Praise the Lord, Tierra. Hey, Sister Sister Odom. Mrs. Odom, I remember you from Jarvis, because when I would be at Jarvis and my mom would be at home and I wouldn't be close to my mom because I was distant, I would talk to her on the phone, but I'd be lonely, and I went through a lot of stuff in college. I even told you about it, Miss Odom. If you remember, I would sit there and I'd be like, Miss Odom, I don't have no real friends, and you'd be like, stop saying that, you haven't met them yet. I want to thank you, because in a way it was like, my mom was alive then. I would talk to her on the phone. We were very close, but I wasn't right there with her. So when I would go through that stuff at Jarvis, just like every other college, it was really hard, the stuff I was going through. And she'd encourage me. God would help me. God would send people. But you were encouraging to me that day. So I want to say thank you for that. I really do. So I just want y'all to know that share this with the young people, that I don't care what y'all are going through, how hard it is. I don't care if you're dealing with sexual diseases or getting over your boo or leaving your boo. I don't know what the situation is, but nothing is impossible for God. If a person can be like me and not have nobody, and God still deliver and bless and show up and show out, despite the many people that wanted me to be out, down, and so they can mock me and laugh at me and be like, that's what you get, you always preaching the word, that's what you get. But God said, no, you're my child, I'm going to take care of you. If he can take care of somebody like me that don't have a lot, that don't have no support, if he can take care of me, then how much more can he take care of y'all? Nothing's impossible for God. He loves y'all. He blesses y'all. Yes, I know the saints, we love each other and we support each other, but I'm talking about from real points of view here. When you're down and out and ain't nobody there, God is. But more than that, he's a miracle worker. I don't care what you're going through. I don't care what it seems like. He can turn it around. He can bring you out, whether it's sin, whether it's losing a job, whether it's you trying to get over your boo, your boyfriend, or get over that pornography, whatever it is, God is a deliverer, and he will bring you out beautifully for his glory if you allow him to, just like he did with me. Just like he did. Somebody didn't have a dime to my name, and now all I got to do is throw it in the bag. Now imagine how I'm going to be by his grace in the years to come. All I got to do is throw it in the bag. If I want it, I can have it, because he's favored. I'm spoiled. He's my daddy. I'm literally one of those. Growing up, I was blessed. I don't like to say spoiled. I was blessed. I was the only child, but God's grace was there. We traveled. I got what I wanted. Mama blessed me. I had a good mama. And now he's still spoiling me. I'm like daddy's little girl. Whatever I want, he give it to me. The only thing I don't have yet is that fine man and my car and my kids. That's all. That's I'm good, straight. And then I have to walk in the ministries he's got for me. But otherwise than that, he blesses me. I can't get it through to y'all young ladies enough. Somebody needs to hear it. You don't need a man to take care of you. You don't need a man to pay your bills. God will do it. Surrender your life to him. Surrender your life to him. He gave you feet. It's some type of job you can get. You don't have to be working like a railroad worker. You don't be working slaving hard. You can be doing something, but he gave you life, health, and strength. Take care of yourself. Make sure that women and young ladies, that you are a role model for your children, for your young girls, that you let them know you don't have to have men up and down the house to take care of you. You can do it yourself by the grace of God. We can do nothing without him. But if God provides, he gave you all the strength you need. Now, if that's your husband, and then that's a different story. But you don't have to sleep around for men to pay your bills. And young ladies that just had newborn, because God will do it. You don't need a man to do what God's already allowing. If you allow him to do, he will do for you. But when we step outside of his will and we're in sin, that's when consequences start happening. You know what I'm saying? It don't have to be him raping your child either. It don't have to be him beating you up. You could just be mentally disturbed because you done been with so many men over the years. You could just be not in the will of God. You know what I'm saying? And young ladies that just had newborn babies, my mom used to always say, make sure you stay at home. Stop bringing that newborn baby out. You're supposed to stay there for at least 6 weeks or something like that, she said. The newborn baby got a cold, about to get pneumonia. Stay at home with your baby. Stop bringing your baby out like it's a baby doll and showing it. Everybody don't need to see your baby. Everybody don't need to see that child. Just stay at home with your child. You know, for y'all newborn young ladies, seek God for wisdom, young mamas. And a lot of the young mamas, y'all seek God for wisdom. Make sure you're a good role model for your child and how to respond to situations, to difficulties, to elders. Be respectful, be wise, get right with God, be Christian, be ladylike, be humble. You can be stern and all that at the same time. You don't have to be mean, you don't have to be cussing, you don't have to be ghetto and all this stuff. Y'all seek God so we can be right